Aloha! Thank you for watching the Sharpest College Football Podcast, Island Time. This is our Week 6 preview. I am BuckMetrics, joined as always by Robert Martin, and joined as always for Island Time by Duck. Before we came on here, Duck was saying he had a so-so week where he went to over 60%. So my condolences on that, Duck. You poor guy.
Thank you. Yeah, good weekend.
Yeah, better than Robert and I. I don't want to relive that anymore, Robert. We can just look forward to better opportunities this week, yes?
Yes, agreed.
Yeah. All right. We've got 7 games to go over here. We're going to need Duck to play referee as my model and Robert's model are in exact opposition, let's say, on the plays here. So with that, let's go to the first one here. Probably the game of the week, Miami at Florida State. Gentlemen, I'll have to trust you to keep me honest on any line moves. Miami, when I put this together, was giving 5.5. I've got Florida State by a couple of scores here, which in my book is a wrong team favored play. Robert's got basically an even bigger margin in favor of the Hurricanes, which is no surprise that Robert's such a big fan of Mario and all the magic that he pulls on the sidelines there. Interesting. I think my model, you could say, Robert, maybe my model's been fooled by some of Florida State's just drubbings that they delivered. I mean, we've got, look, just raw, unadjusted for opponent. And let's keep in mind, I think they played a really good opponent and a good opponent and a couple of tomato cans. But Alabama and Virginia, I think those are 2 good data points here. We've got elite offense, overall nice balance here between these two. Really nice defensive apex here, a good solid run defense here. You know, what's interesting, too, that surprised me in this numbers when I put this together is my model loves Miami's defense. Don't know if I've mentioned the name Corey Heatherman. You might want to look that up sometime. Does not like the offense here of Miami. And I think last week their offense, or their last game, took a little step back here. So throw it all together. My model sees Florida State as good chance to make the playoffs. Sees Miami as a one-sided team here, really lacking on offense. So I guess I'll start with you, Robert, on this. The big gap here is basically, as much as anything, is just the Miami offense, what our models see them doing. You more confident in your model or mine here?
After last week with Florida State against Virginia, I feel a bit more confident about that. Watching Miami just absolutely just shut down Florida in that game a couple weeks ago, Florida could just do nothing offensively at all. Just completely shut them down offensively. And I was really surprised at how well Florida was even able to hold back Miami's offense. I was shocked by that. I thought for sure that game, and if you watch that game felt like it should have been 40-something to nothing. Honestly, it felt like it in some ways it may have been even a bigger blow than the Indiana-Illinois game that was going on at the exact same time. No, honestly, that Miami team is scary. I thought Florida State was good, and then they let up like 40-some-odd points to Virginia. So I'm playing in the Miami play here. I think 5.5. I think Miami should be favored by a touchdown here. I'm not sure why Miami seemed to not just put their foot down and just finish off Florida in that game. But to be fair, they were up like 3 scores already, so it didn't really matter that much. So maybe that was just why that was closer. But honestly, no, that Miami team is terrifying. I don't think they're the best team in the country. I think there's better teams than them. But in the ACC, I don't think so. I think they're the best team in the ACC.
Very fair. It's interesting in that I didn't think the offense was going to be the problem with this Miami team. Duck, my model basically shows them as about an average, the Hurricanes as an average ACC offense here. That surprises me. Let me just throw it to you on this. Do you think that they're like a well above average ACC offense and my numbers are just wrong in this case? Or do you think they're actually struggling a little bit?
Well, I think they're an above-average ACC offense, but they are far from explosive. In fact, they are 112th nationally in rush play explosiveness and 124th nationally in pass play explosiveness. And so they require a string of successful plays in order to move the ball. And so if they can string that together and consistently have success in early downs, then they will be able to move the ball. Converting third down at 50%. Red zone numbers have been exceptional. On the other side, though, Florida State, you look at how explosive they are on offense. They are the top team, according to the advanced metrics, in pass play explosiveness. They are very sound when you factor in like their expected points added per play. They're 4th nationally. They're 3rd in overall explosiveness. And I think they're going to be able to move the ball a little bit here on Miami. I think the perception of Florida State was probably too high before the road game. against Virginia, and it's just hard to go on the road and win. And when you're going on the road in league play for the very first time, the operation can just look a little bit jerky. The next point I'd like to make is if that Florida State receiver holds on to the ball and doesn't quadruple bobble it in double overtime and they end up
Yeah.
winning, what would that line be? But then the other thing is this line is just so telling to me because they could have attracted just as much Miami attention to the betting line, and people are lining up in droves to bet Miami. But they could have put this at 6.5, and same amount of people would have bet Miami, and all the money's pouring in on Miami, and the line is trimming down. And so I'm led to believe Florida State can compete here. Florida State can provide enough resistance defensively. They're 3.16 yards per carry surrendered on the ground this season and only 4.5 yards per play given up. They've been excellent in the red zone. They're only allowing a third of their third down conversions against them to be successful. And again, Miami has had the comfort of being in their own ballpark now for 4 weeks. But when you go on the road in league play, and this gets magnified, in my opinion, because of the transient nature of the rosters, and people are coming and going, and these guys haven't been in the trenches together in hostile road environments for 3 or 4 years like it used to be just even 10 short years ago. None of these guys have played together on the road. So when it's loud, people are yelling, you've got the whole stadium against you. You don't know what you have beside you until you figure it out. So I really think that there's something to going on the road. We've seen it time and time again, week in and week out. And I think Miami's going to struggle here. The line is this short for a reason. I'm not going to say Florida State's going to win the game, but I think that they cover. I've bet Florida State. It's 4.5 now.
So when you said it's tough to win, I don't even. It applies two ways here. Tough to win your first conference road game. I don't know if you're talking about this week or last week for Florida State, or it really applies to both.
It was tough last week. It was tough last week for Florida State last week. I think we talked about that game against Virginia. And then it's now tough for Miami to go on the road and win their first conference game on the road. They haven't had a road game yet this season. This is their first road trip period.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's right. Yeah, it is.
Could look a little jerky for the Hurricanes.
Florida State also on a short week too. It's even worse. Your first conference road game on a short week. It's not a fun draw, and all of a sudden, we'll talk about Virginia in a little bit here, so I don't want to talk about that. But it wasn't as an easy spot as we might have thought. The other thing too, are we sure that he bobbled it? That was as close as a replay. I think technically it was, but if I had one more drink, I could have just said whatever. That's probably the closest replay I've seen this season. That was really close.
Yeah, bang, bang. You can argue over it if you want. If you and I were having a cigar together on the back porch, there'd be no arguing. Yep. We would just be enjoying it. Yeah.
And I'm objective, but if that was my team, I would have been really upset if that touchdown got called back. All right, so you're side with my model on this one. Okay. Buck 1, Robert 0. Sorry, Robert. It's a road game for you, as you were telling us before, right? Yeah. Yes. All right, next one here. I don't know how to characterize this. I guess I'd say the surprise, sneaky. How do I characterize? I'm going to put a bunch of words together, see if there's a concept that comes out. The maybe sneaky kind of surprise to be determined, although team called Maryland. Running out of runway to disprove this team. This might be the dispositive game on what this team is against Washington, in whom maybe I had a little bit too much faith preseason. I look at the numbers here for Washington. I've got the second or third rated passer in all of FBS, oddly behind the guy at Air Force. We might have a impromptu quack about that. This team can run the ball too. They're explosive. Defense is good, depending on what you think of Ohio State. Maybe they did okay. I'll put it this way. I will look as much into the action. If I use a horse racing concept, when you're looking at a horse that debuts, if they take money, and if basically you're expecting them to go to 8-1 and they get money, they're going off at 5-2, that in itself is as much telling as the race that they run. And I think that the money that Washington took last week tells me almost as much about what they are as maybe what Ohio State is. On the other side, we have Maryland. You've got Malik Washington, who's I thought he was going to have some serious issues. He's a true freshman, is he not? Either of you guys know?
Yes.
Or is he a redshirt? My
True.
gosh. Okay. True freshman. This defense was supposed to be in a complete rebuild mode, and they've got amazing stats on both running and passing here. Offensively, the numbers are not great for Maryland. This defense, I think I have them rated number 2. Washington, I love their offense. Their defense is pretty good for Big Ten here. I've got Maryland by 6, so that's a play. That's a margin of 11. Robert's model has Washington by 16. I've got just conflicting signals here. I don't have a strong opinion on this game. I'll put it this way. If my model had Robert's number, I really couldn't disagree with it either. So I don't know about this one at all. Robert, start with you on this. Do you think the Huskies win by 2 scores? As on the road, first conference road game too. And this is a weird place to play too.
Yeah, so I'll defend my model, and then Duck can break the tie here. I do like my model in this. I think Washington underperformed, obviously by a lot. They couldn't finish the job on offense last week against Ohio State. But on defense, they were quite strong. Colorado State did score more points against Washington than Ohio State did. I'm not sure if that's a positive for Ohio State. I think that's something a lot of people will just sweep under the rug there and just be like, whatever. But that's kind of stuff that guys like us watch, and we're like, hey, that's weird, right? So I think that's an interesting point there. Cross country is never fun. First road conference game is never fun as well. That being said, though, Washington very intact from last year. This Maryland team feels a little overvalued. They were massively undervalued against Wisconsin, and they just crushed Wisconsin, and I feel like now people are just massively overreacting to that. And I feel like they're just begging you to bet Maryland here with this number. They're like, oh, Washington's going cross country, and Maryland beat Wisconsin, and Washington just got beat by Ohio State badly. So you got to take this here. But I think the plays with Washington here, I think Washington is just a better team, and I feel like at a certain point this Maryland team will show us what they are, and that usually happens. Usually not in September. I think it's usually like October, November, Maryland, when it's finally like, oh, okay, they're not actually that good of a team.
Very fair. Maybe I don't. Is the defense more likely to stick around? It seems like those Maryland teams have been a function of their offense, and maybe I don't know. I'm just throwing out a stupid theory here, but maybe if it's a defense, it can stick longer. I don't know. Duck, you've got basically a touchdown margin going both ways on our models here. You have an opinion aside on this one, or are you just watching for fun on the Big Ten Network where all the best games are played?
So I will say that I thought Washington deserved a much better result than what they ended up getting against Ohio State. One of Ohio State's game-changing scoring drives to go up 14-3 was aided by the softest roughing the passer call that you'll ever see. Defender just brushes his hand on the guy, and the referees throw the flag. Instead of settling for a field goal attempt, Washington could have kept it within 1 score. The drive gets extended. And then there was a decision to fake a field goal on 4th and 14. It's like, you're not converting that. And so there was just 2 unfortunate circumstances that went against Washington. I actually thought the Huskies played pretty well despite the final score. I was very impressed with that. The biggest thing against Washington this week is the spot. You have to get up off the mat after hosting number 1 team in the country. And the team they play next is one they are going to absolutely want to get. If you recall last year what happened when they played at Rutgers, and got so hoovered by the refs, by bogus penalties, by a re-up on a field goal attempt. It was unbelievable.
All right, I have to jump in here. We have to mention that was the worst special teams game I've ever seen by a single team. Until Oregon State last week, but the special teams mistakes there were just epic. I had a whole segment on it, but sorry. It was their post-game win probability, I think, was like 82% in that game, if I remember correctly. To your point, sorry to interrupt you, but you really struck a nerve on that one. Please go on.
That's who they play next.
Yes.
And so they didn't forget that. So you got to get up off the mat. You got to travel 3,000 miles. These are 18 to 22-year-old kids. And the spot is atrocious. Maryland off the bye, getting healthy, have 2 weeks to prepare. I wouldn't lay anything with Washington, and it's not that I don't think they're the better team, and they could go out there and win by 17 and completely control the second half. But if this were to get to 7, it's 6.5 now, the line has escalated up. If this were to get to 7, I would play Maryland purely based on the spot, and I don't think the talent discrepancy is that extreme. Maryland has shown a propensity this season to provide resistance both overall in total defense and against the run, and we saw Damon Williams look fairly average against Colorado State and fairly average last week. Shredding UC Davis and a really crappy Wazoo defense just doesn't really do it for me. I think he's a very good player and a special player, but this is really tricky, guys, to get up off the mat after losing the way you did against Ohio State and then having to travel 3,000 miles away. I could not lay it here. If I was betting real money on this game, I could not lay the points. If it gets to 7, I'll be on Maryland.
I will tell you, I think Colorado State believes in Washington's defense, but that's a totally different conversation. Just like we have them coming up next. Also, you're quite accurate. You saw by my reaction, I didn't forget that Rutgers game. Yeah, totally fair that there's no way those kids on that team that are still on the Huskies have forgotten that either. That's also, weirdly, another Friday night game. That was a Friday night game last year, too.
It was the Rutgers blackout.
Yes. One thing I think that really that keeps me from playing this at all, and not to say that I disagree with your play, Doug, I can totally buy your case there. These both strike me as like sneakily bet on teams, in that I think that probably they're a little undervalued still. When I see that, I don't know, there's 60, 70 games every week. I'll pick one of those instead of one of these where
I assure you I'll be betting Washington next week, no matter what the line is.
Okay. And Robert, this is where you say you've already bet them, right? Because you've done your look-ahead work and all that stuff.
I don't think I bet this one, but yeah, I may have bet this one. I'm not sure. I'll have to check.
Okay.
I haven't seen a look-ahead line anywhere on this.
Yeah. Okay. Washington. Okay, so or Maryland. All right.
Maryland plus 7's there. Okay. I'll be on it.
You shaded towards mine, so okay, a little bit. I think we got one more here. Yeah. As I was just talking about, I need some help just sorting this one out. We've got Colorado State, who was last year, how do I say this? A paradigm of okay, just week to week. They were just kind of middle of the pack in the Mountain West in everything. Literally, I had a middle of the pack in offensive rating, defensive rating, total rating, I think Apex and GGAB. They were just as consistently as consistently as it gets. And now they're not that good this year. And then we've got, I don't know what to make of the San Diego State defense. I don't know if it's still a secondary infection from playing Northern Illinois. Northern Illinois is kind of like a patient zero every year of dumb numbers that don't make any sense and take a while to work out. And I don't know if holding the Huskies to 3 points has really goosed this defensive rating here for San Diego State. On paper, it appears to be the standout squad. San Diego State did also shut out Cal, if I remember correctly. And Cal's basically scored, I think, probably about in the high 20s, low 30s against everybody else. And their quarterback's been
tearing it up.
Pretty good especially for a true freshman. So I just don't know whether to believe in the San Diego State defense here. It's not like it's going to take a lot, though, to stop this Rams offense. It's weird for everything that, how Sean Lewis frames his whole program, that this is like a Rocky Long setup here instead. Having said all that, Robert's model, this is crazy. Robert's model has Colorado State by 15. I have the Aztecs by 15. I've got a much lower scoring game than he does. I guess in that regard, I feel stronger about my model in that I think Colorado State, as I mentioned, will struggle. They've struggled offensively quite a bit. I can't see Colorado State scoring 37 against, even if San Diego State's defense is not that good. I think they're probably at least decent enough to really slow down what's really turned out to be a subpar Colorado State team. As I talk more and more, I'm almost talking myself into the Aztecs. Now, I guess one of you guys is going to say it's up to 6.5, and maybe it's less of a play here. I went from just agnostic just in the course of 2.5 minutes here to maybe the Aztecs, although it would be going against Robert's model here. I've thrown a lot. I guess, Robert, starting with you, seeing as Colorado State's really kind of stunk on offense this year, are you feeling that 37 points that you're projecting still?
It is 6.5. It is 6.5.
There we go. Okay.
But, I don't know. San Diego State scored, they won 6-3 last week? Okay, their defense is good, but I don't know about their offense. I think it's funny we both have them at basically 22, 23 points. I think that's funny.
Yeah, I didn't notice that.
And we're we know what San Diego State is, but both our models have no idea what Colorado State is. We're completely different teams there. I don't know. I feel like if you have a team whose offense is not particularly great, Colorado State did score. This is the Colorado State podcast now. They scored pretty well against Washington a couple weeks ago. So I think the 6.5 is fair there.
Yeah. I'm concerned about, didn't they just score 3 against Wazoo? Am I misremembering that? I think they just lost 20-3. Yeah. So I see Wazoo as like a lower level Mountain West in terms of talent level. I'm just guessing based on their power rating. My internals in last year too, they just seem to be like in that the top of the bottom third of the Mountain West. The more I talk, the more I'm leaning Aztecs here. Are you of the same mind, Duck?
I got to say something here, Robert. I looked through the PowerPoint deck here before we got on air. I will side with your model at some point. I assure you of that.
Not this one.
So I just want so Colorado State is a complete mess in their coaching staff and in their offensive personnel. They are shifting some of the responsibilities away from their OC. They're giving Mummy some of the responsibilities. They're taking some away. They're giving some play calling duties to somebody else. But they described it as giving some opportunities in some capacity. So they really don't know what they're giving to the other. Yeah. Jay Norvell held on to Braden Fowler Nicolosi despite the inefficiency, despite developing as a quarterback. This is his third year with the program. He's held on to him for far too long. Mm-hmm. They threw Jackson Broussard in there against UTSA. They created a spark. They could have won the game. Stupid play calling and decision making to go for two. But they don't leave the hot hand in there. They bring Taj Bullock off the bench, who hadn't completed a pass all season, to go for 2-point conversion. Of course, he throws a pass and it's not completed, and they lose. Okay, you're playing Wazoo, who's given up 118 combined points the last 2 weeks. You get an opening drive field goal, and you do not score again. It was absolutely as bad as you'll ever see. And sprinkled in there that we didn't discuss was a near loss against FCS Northern Colorado, who is the worst-rated team in the Big Sky after Portland State. So not good. 3 stinkers in a row for Colorado State, a team that just looks completely dead in the water. The fan base wants Norvell fired. He looks defeated in his press conferences. Colorado State is what I believe to be absolute hot garbage. Now, you look at San Diego State. They also put up a stinker against Washington State, so you have a common opponent. The game did snowball on San Diego State as they surrendered 19 points in a 5-minute stretch. Otherwise, they played pretty competitively against Wazoo on the road. But 76-0, they've outscored their opponents at home. 42-0 against Stony Brook, 34-0 against California. This defense, which returned 10 starters from last season, is very legitimate. They're holding opponents to 2.7 yards per rush and just 3.6 yards per play over the totality of the season. They are top 20 in defensive success rate, defensive explosiveness prevented, defensive pass play success rate. This is a very sound defense and one that I would lean in on here. The offense has not looked flash fast like the Sean Lewis offense that we know and love, and they're still retooling it. Their quarterback, Denegal, is not necessarily what we would want to see here. The way I've got this is a very low-scoring game. This is a really big opportunity for San Diego State to kind of position themselves as a team that could make some noise in Mountain West play. One of my biggest plays of the weekend, I laid it with San Diego State. Anything under a touchdown I think is good, and this could be a margin call. They could win this game by 2 touchdowns, 3 touchdowns. Colorado State's dead in the water, in my opinion. So San Diego State's strong play for me this weekend.
Gotcha. Apologize for that. My notepad actually went on my space bar here. Kind of like we were joking about in the earlier part about somebody falling asleep on the keyboard and Robert's model going crazy with some of these projections. But a couple things. You just jolted loose a memory from the preseason. I think actually San Diego State had one of the highest learning curve grades on defense, and I just dismissed it because their defense was so bad. In my mind it was like, great, they're gonna go from just absolutely horrible to still really freaking bad. But I can buy that. I still don't think they're as good as my metrics say, but I think with that. Just Sean Lewis is a good coach, too. I think that there's probably something here on that defense. Taj Bullock, where do I know that name from?
Akron.
That's right. Okay.
Third stringer off the bench to attempt the 2-point conversion. Go back and watch the film. It was bizarre. They were doing nothing all game. Backup quarterback comes in and provides a spark with 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. They kick the extra point to tie the game. There's a penalty. They take the extra point off of the board. They decide to go for 2 because they're half the distance closer. And they don't leave Broussard in there, who had the hot hand and led the 2 touchdown drives. And they don't put Fowler Nicolosi in there, who's your team's starting quarterback. Third stringer off the bench, had not completed a pass all season. Okay, that's fine. Let's run the ball up there. He's the running quarterback. You can create a little power situation with your O-line. Yeah, let's roll him out on naked boot and have him throw a pass. Absolutely baffling situational coaching, in my opinion. It was stunning, quite very stunning.
Yeah, yeah, I think he might need a new venue there, Mr. Norvell. We Robert, this is not the intent, but I actually feel like I said, I talked myself into it before Duck made his strong case. We talked you into maybe a small play on the Aztecs here against your
Yeah,
mom.
you know what? I'm starting to see it. Yeah. The thing is, their defense is so good. It seems weird that I have someone scoring 37 points against them. There's also a team that shut out Cal too, right? Yeah,
Yeah,
maybe. Yeah, maybe they need to. Maybe there's something wrong with the model in that case or maybe it's undervaluing San Diego State defense.
yeah. We're getting with the wrong models. And that's a whole podcast for my model alone. I can just tell you
Yeah.
that. Okay. All right, we're done with the arm wrestling here between models. Although I do need a little bit of encouragement from Duck on this one here. My numbers have Michigan as the best team from a power rating standpoint in all of college football. 15 here, hosting Wisconsin seems really low for. Let me grab my laser pointer here. Thank you very much. We've got functional competence on offense right now with Mr. Underwood. They obviously can run the ball against really good defenses. Not an explosive offense, which doesn't surprise me. Again, their defense is almost in the range of about as good as it gets outside of Texas. Obviously, Wisconsin's offense is struggling. If I'm looking at something right here, I think this 80 is probably a little generous here for how bad Wisconsin's passing game is. I think this is a kind of quarterback that Michigan chews up and eats for dinner. My model has Michigan by the very common football score, as I like to say, of 39-5. Roberts is a little bit on the other side of the spread here with a 12-point margin here. I really want to bet Michigan here. I don't know if I'm pretty confident it's not going to be a 39-5 game, but I'm feeling like 3+ scores here in favor of the Wolverines. This feels kind of like a reprisal, but a home version of what we saw Michigan do at Nebraska. I just think Michigan, as much as Michigan can do it, runs away with this one for a team that's a grinded out. Everything to me points to Michigan here. I'll start with you, Robert. You've got Michigan winning, but just on the other side of the model. Let me just ask you to start with this. If you were going to bet on Wisconsin, how many points would you need to bet on Wisconsin in this spot? I'll start there.
This one is just a no play for me, right? I only got a margin of 12. It's 15. I just a throwaway for me. I'm just like, whatever. I'm shocked I don't have Michigan by more in this game. I thought for sure when I looked at this, I was going to have Michigan by 30 or something, but I don't. And I'm very confused as to why the model doesn't have that. But it's saying, hey, this game should be relatively closer. So I'm just going to not touch that. I think Poji came in and they absolutely crushed. What team was that?
Central
Central Michigan, yeah. And then they were able to score some points against Nebraska, but I think there's now some questions about how good Nebraska is actually. But Cincinnati seems to be pretty good, and they beat Cincinnati, so I don't know. I thought my model was going to love Michigan here, but it turns out it didn't. So I'm just going to kind of punt on this. This is not a belief. Even me punting on this game is not in any way a belief in Wisconsin. Don't worry, I'm not endorsing Wisconsin in any way. I just want to punt on this. I don't want to touch this game. Something seems weird. This spread seems a little too short too. So I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, Doug. I'll start with this. How many points would you need to take Wisconsin here? If I gave you how many points is when you'd start to get interested.
28.5. It's because Billy
Wow.
Edwards is not playing. It's Danny O'Neill again. And so I just don't see that there's going to be any success for Wisconsin to be able to move the football. They can't score. They don't convert well on third down. Wisconsin is just really broken in a bad way offensively. They don't have the personnel to, Fickle wanted to go back to the power running game and kind of retool what was the spread offense. So they went so far away from the Wisconsin football identity, and they're trying to come back to that. They don't have the personnel to run it. And now you have a quarterback that would have been, if you look at the two deep and everybody in the Mountain West, he's probably eighth from the bottom in the two deep because he was just that bad at San Diego State. So you've got a really bad, weak G5 quarterback that's quarterbacking your team. I think Michigan will eat these guys alive. It's just Michigan looked really good during stretches against Nebraska, but Nebraska can't stop the run. They lost so much production from their front seven from last year, and dudes that were big, strong, physical weight in the weight room guys. It's like guys that you could count on to stop the run, and they don't have any of those guys. 3 of Michigan's touchdowns were 60-yard touchdown runs because they just couldn't stop the run. Outside of that, their offense was just so jerky on the road. But they're not on the road here. They've had a bye week to prepare for it. I don't know what Wisconsin's going to roll out there. With the spread and total where it currently sits, you're looking at an implied score of somewhere around 29 to 13. And I think Wisconsin's defense can provide some resistance. We should see very little pace. It should be very slow moving throughout. Both of these teams operate slowly. I would lean first half under. If I could find a 21.5, I would go first half under because I don't know that Wisconsin will score much at all in this game. Wisconsin team total under 13.5 could be good. Michigan to win by shutout, maybe that's about plus 600. That could be okay. I would need 28.5 to want to take Wisconsin here just because I have zero confidence that their offense will be able to run the football with Michigan being able to put 8 in the box and plug up the run holes and dare Danny O'Neal to throw over the top with those receivers. Not going to happen. It would be Michigan or nothing on the side. But I would lean a low scoring game. I'd lean first half under, and then Michigan has had some second halves where they've popped a few in, and so that could ruin a full game total. But I'd consider a first half under.
Yeah, two things. A good point. Those Michigan body blows tend to pay off after halftime. Also, I think for the second time this year on Island Time, you're being extremely generous to one Billy Edwards. My gosh, you're a generous grader when it comes to his value. I'll just say that. I've got a different opinion of him than you do, maybe. But yeah, we agree on Danny O'Neal for sure.
We're going from C plus to D minus. We're not going from B plus. Billy Edwards is about a C plus, I'd say, and O'Neal's a D minus. Big difference.
Yeah, he's not a Big Ten quarterback. He's not.
He's just not.
Yeah. So I like the context you put in terms of Mountain West.
But I will say I side with Robert's model here on the total.
There you go. Okay. Yeah. Fair. All right, this is the enigma of the riddle of the game here. My gosh, we've got. I don't know. This is kind of reality show. This is like two reality shows combining. This is like the Kardashians and meets 90 Day Fiance if it was a football game. We all know Clemson. Both these teams just have all kinds of issues that are just out there in the open. I guess my first thought is, with all of Clemson's problems, am I going to really give? I guess, first of all, do we have an updated line on this? Is this up to 14 yet?
Yeah, some shops have 14, 14 and a half, 13 and a half. You can shop around and find the right side of 14.
It's just hard. Let's not forget, this Clemson team trailed Troy at home by 16, I think it was. It's hard to give almost 2 touchdowns on the road. Not that North Carolina is the hardest place to play. Also, North Carolina is like functional on offense. Defensive, they're showing some stuff now at least. Decent defensive apex. Not a horrible defensive G-gap here. And again, this Clemson offense is not that awesome. Jeez. North Carolina is about as unexplosive as it gets on offense too. This is horrible. My gosh. Yeah, this is just a bad offense here. I'll put it this way. If there's one thing I think Belichick might be able to do as a college coach, it would be to turn this into a rock fight. So maybe that makes the play here North Carolina. I generally don't know. I've got North Carolina by 3. I don't see that happening. Robert's model is basically right on the market here. He's got 30-17. I just wanted to talk about this one because this is like an advanced physics problem here that I don't know how to untangle here. Robert, any strong thoughts on this one here? Or are you just as confounded by me with all the drama and bleed up in this one?
So something really fascinating about this one. So obviously, the week before each week, like I run the model for the week's games and the next week's games, so I can look at headlines, I can bet stuff in advance. So I was very curious what my look ahead line for this game was 2 weeks ago, and I had Clemson minus 12.5, and I'm like, that's a really weird line. I'm like, I wonder what that line actually is going to be. And look ahead, it was exactly 12.5. I'm like, that's really weird. That's 2 really weird football lines, and I have book has. And now then that was pre North Carolina getting absolutely blown out by UCF. No.
Yeah, it's UCF.
No, because UCF played someone else last week. They played Kansas State. Was North Carolina a bye last week?
Sorry, 2 weeks ago they played UCF.
2 weeks ago. So then, that's right. I had 12.5 for this game, And then I thought after UCF it would, because after UCF got blown out, then I thought it would move because then UCF was worse. So then it did move. That's why it's trickled up a couple points. But still very weird that 12.5 line was stuck there for both me and the book. And I don't even know what a 12.5 line means. Like I can tell you what a 6.5 and an 8.5 and 9.5 and a 10.5 mean, but I don't know what a 12.5 means. I don't even know. I don't know what that number means. But no, this is fascinating. We talked a couple weeks ago in the main podcast about North Carolina and just how bad this is, and the defense is so bad, and the offense is so bad. And I think that Clemson is also not good. I don't know what the right way to exploit it is. I feel like you could maybe get some. I'm not sure what Klubnik's over under passing touchdowns is in this game. That might be a nice way to exploit this because North Carolina has just no defense at all. I feel like there's better ways to exploit it. The spread is weird. I think like from now on, North Carolina is just going to have increasingly larger spreads. Except Clemson is suspect, and the spread is 12.5. What happens when that's an actually good team on the other end of that, right? And they have a couple good teams. Like what happens if I think they play Louisville at some point, right? I think they probably play Georgia Tech or something. I think, right? What happens when that's actually a good team on the other end of that? What's that spread? Is that 28? Right, that's what we're talking about here, because that's how bad this has gotten with North Carolina. So I want to bet kind of Clemson overperforming, but maybe not against the spread. I want to bet like Klubnik to get like over 1.5 passing touchdowns. Maybe that's plus money, or maybe minus 120 or something. Maybe Klubnik runs it in. I want to bet Clemson doing stuff that looks cool to make people believe in them again. And that's it. That's what I want to bet.
Was that 28 a first half number for Georgia? I'm kidding. Not out of the realm though. I might push back on the defense of Carolina a little bit. I think that TCU, like we expected them just to be ready to go from snap one of game one here, so that they might have looked a little worse than they actually are. I think they're just mediocre. This game is just, if I look at like the guts of my predictives here, everything's mediocre except for that horrible North Carolina offense by my metrics here. Duck, are you brave enough to even have an opinion on this, let alone a playable one?
What's interesting to me is if you listen to Bill Belichick speak, and he's just the same old Bill Belichick, grouchy old man that he has been for years in the NFL, talking about, well, we're on to the next game, we're on to the next game. Are you on to the next game, and what are you doing all week with these kids? Because they're not getting any better. And they tackle poorly, they take bad angles on defense. I don't think that the defense is terrible, but this team does not tackle well. There's no pursuit to the football. If you look at backside pursuit, they take poor angles at the ball carrier, and they do give up explosive plays, and it is very concerning. Now, Central Florida had a really interesting and unique situation that was playing out. I understand why they won the games by wide margin. Their offensive line coach, Sean Clark, was in the hospital dying. Nobody knew about it, but they knew about it, and they were playing their game for Coach Clark. They knew they knew he had a week left to live. Nobody knew that. So what does Central Florida do? They go out, they give max effort, they blow these guys into the ground, and that's just the way Sean Clark went out. He was in the hospital bed watching, and he died 2 days later, and that's why UCF had motivation to do what they did to North Carolina. Nobody knew that. So then it came out later on, and that was the way that kind of rolled. So I understand that North Carolina was in a pretty tough spot there, but boy, you talk about the scripted drives. You open the first half with a scripted play drive where you have your 10 or 12 plays that are scripted, and then you do that at the beginning of the second half as well. Generally, teams will. And they looked great against TCU on the scripted drive, go down right away and score a touchdown, and then they don't score again. And it just looks so jerky. Gio Lopez, the quarterback, has been held out of practice this week. He's been hurt for a majority of the year. And it's just almost Bill Belichick is starting in year zero. He's trying to get the pieces put together and see if the machine will fire up. And can I get this thing running down the road or not? And what do I need to get it running down the road? And so it's really a tough spot for him. Clemson, their situation is purely just predicated on the fact that Dabo has not pivoted to adjust with the times of college football, and their team is falling behind while everyone else is getting better. I think it's hard, too, to understand his demeanor when he's answering these tough questions, because he just throws his hands up in the air and says, look at all the stuff I did for you. If you want to fire me, I'll go pack my bags. It's really not the right way to handle that. You've got to address what's happening in front of you and what happened 3 hours ago when you played the game on Saturday. What is happening on the field with this team? And right now, it's not good either way. So You have two programs. Clemson is descending. North Carolina is also descending compared to what they've been in priors. This team was playing for ACC championships not long ago, and now they're like, both these teams are right on the cusp of being put in the toilet. So, no interest whatsoever for me. If I had to try to squeeze out any value in this game whatsoever, I think the total's probably a tad too low. I would probably look at playing an over. I could see Clemson trying to find it a little bit offensively here. And I'm stretching for trying to find something to bet here, but I think Clemson could try to potentially find some offensive explosivity, and there's a chance North Carolina with Max Johnson, who they caught lightning in a bottle with him a little bit this season. There's a chance this game could be played in the high 50s rather than 45.
Fair. And as talking through this, just it appears to me, or at least it feels to me, like this is the opposite of that Maryland Washington game, where I think those are kind of like bet on sharp teams. These are just seem like square programs at the moment, where it's just you've got just mouth breathers who are saying, "Oh, Belichick, man, he's great. He's going to turn around sooner rather than later," just having no clue to the program. And I think anybody betting on Clemson is the whole argument is basically his press conferences. He didn't forget how to coach suddenly. Well, it appears that he has. I don't know, or at least it's not a double plus money game just because of that spread. But man, there's such variance here that I don't know. It's like trying to catch a falling knife, as they say in the stock market sometimes. Just there's better places. So we're all confounded by this. No opinions at all, other than just like I said, it's more gasoline on one drama's fire, right?
Yeah, and speaking of the stock market reference, catching the falling knife, like I'm not trying to time the bottom, and I don't know that we've hit the bottom for either one of these teams yet.
Exactly.
And you look at looking forward, trying to assess play-on situations. North Carolina goes to Cal next, hosting Virginia. Nah, I want no part of that. At Syracuse. No. Maybe if Syracuse's offensive operation looks jerky now that Angeli's out for the season, possibly, or hosting Stanford, yeah, there's a chance. You're going way down the road, though. Like, we're not even close to those games yet. Same thing for Clemson, like SMU, Duke, Florida State, at Louisville. I don't want this team in any of those situations.
Yeah, one other thing we talked, Robert, you made a point about this again and again when we were talking about North Carolina in the preseason and early season. So I'll start with you, but I want your opinion on this too, Duck. North Carolina has to start all over on the roster again. There's almost nothing to build on from this year.
Yeah, it's really year zero. Again, you're just trying to get the pieces put in place to see kind of what you have. This is a unique situation for Bill Belichick because the guy clearly knows how to coach football, both defensively, situationally. He is revered as possibly the greatest coach that's ever coached. But he has not coached 18 to 22-year-old kids. He has not been able to control everything that they do as though they're a professional. He can't necessarily get them to eat what he wants them to eat, or to go to the training room when he wants them to go, or quit doing the stuff after hours. It's like he doesn't have that control. And so I would imagine for him, it's very frustrating because he was able to do that with the paid employees on his team. And now that's not the case as much.
Yeah. And Robert, remind us, was Bill Belichick a good personnel guy in the NFL?
No, and I think that's the other end of this too, right? Is the fact that, and I called this out when we previewed the ACC, and I keep calling it out every couple of weeks, right? Great coach, but was not a particularly good GM. Once Tom Brady was gone, that roster basically completely fell apart. And that's the thing there, right? Brady was partially holding the roster together. Again, obviously, Bill Belichick was an amazing coach that helped that team win. But at the same point in time, the pieces were there. Like, outside of Brady, they built everything around Brady. And once Brady was gone, then it's, okay, who's our number one wide receiver? What's our defense look like? And everything was just in really bad shape. No, I don't think he's good at evaluating talent. And again, you could see that. Number one starting quarterback was Gio Lopez. Second one, Max Johnson. These are retreads from other programs. And what's next year? I think he came in trying to play Moneyball here, and that's not the name of the game here. The name of the game here is get as many good shots at this as you can. You get as many good players to get shots at it, because half of these kids don't work out. Half of these kids are not good, and they don't even make the roster next year. Even if they're a 5-star, some of them don't even turn out well. So this is the thing. I still think... Now, there's a lot of questions about whether or not Belichick wants this job, whether or not he just thought he'd do good here and then go off to do something else. I don't even know about that. He's really not hurt. He's not helping himself right now in terms of that. But the thing is, though, is that I don't even know if this is year zero. I think you have to start again after this year. This is the thing. Like,
Literally.
there's no, you can make, and I think probably pretty decent argument that this is actually worse than last year's team.
By
Yeah,
far.
like
Yeah,
it's
definitely.
worse. And the thing is, again, in the NFL, Bill Belichick would be like, "Cool, I get to draft like a top 10 pick." It's like, no, you don't. That's not how this works here, right? I don't get to draft quarterback. You don't get to. This is the thing. So if he is the coach next year, which I'm not even sure he may not be because he just may want to leave and do something else. I don't know. But if he is the coach next year and he starts being like, okay, we're going to offer like this 3-star quarterback from some random high school to be our starting quarterback because I like some tape from him, that's the kind of stuff I could see him pulling. And that's what's costing him right now. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't want to make this a whole North Carolina pod, but just file away for later too. They're only going to improve if they get good guys from lower level, like your G5 programs. And I don't think the skill set is there anywhere in that organization. But we'll have a whole offseason to talk about that and talk about, hey, they have 60 new guys again this year. Congratulations. Yeah, we'll be talking about the Tar Heels quite a bit. Probably not so much this year, but next year for sure. All right, this is kind of like the for Duck to sign my permission slip here. Texas, and maybe this line's gone up. Is this still
It's still
7
7.
at Florida? I can't believe that. Look, Capital F fired Billy Napier is still there, and this is the kind of game, I guess, in theory, that Capital F fired Billy Napier wins or makes close, but I'm not really willing to bet on that angle. The one thing, and I made the case before, is look, Florida's defense is going to make Arch look bad. Now, Arch is still going to have to deal with playing at a hostile environment, but once I saw this, we've got Florida with what looks like a below average SEC. Very different from my eyeballs, but it's not like I've watched all of the Florida Gators games, so I'm going to trust my model on that. Look, and I don't believe in Texas's offense, and I think my numbers are very right here that they're basically an average SEC offense right now. I don't think this is a get well game for Texas, but I think that this is a game where is DJ Lagway. Somebody said he was in a boot. Is he going to play or is he out? Either of you guys know that?
I don't.
I have not heard that he's not playing.
Okay. And I don't know if that's good since he's number one on the bum list. Apologies, Robert. I think that I don't see Florida getting to double digits here. Again, this is by my metrics, again, not surprisingly, the best defense when I'm talking about Texas, the best defense in all of FBS. I think that Florida is just going to just eventually give up opportunities. There's going to be a few breaks, and I don't think Texas is dominant offensively here, but I think they just kind of accidentally ball control it into a few scores here. I don't think Florida scores at all. I've got my models got it 25 to. I guess I'll give Florida a field goal, round up to 3. Robert also has Texas with 25 and Florida with a couple of touchdowns. I guess I'm going to appeal to you, Robert, first. Can I just give a formal appeal here? Can you take that 14 down to 10 just to give us the margin to play here, even if it's not a double model play?
I've actually already played this.
Okay.
I actually played at 8.5. Actually, I want to come back in for seconds at 7. Again, so 2 weeks ago when it was Miami, Florida, and Illinois, Indiana, my original plan was to put Indiana, Illinois on the main screen and then have Florida on the side screen. But then one just was the Indiana game was over within I think about 10 minutes of actual game time. So I'm just like, okay, fine, let's watch this meltdown. And to be fair, it felt like the Miami game was like it wasn't obviously not worse, but it felt like it could have been worse. And Miami just took forever to go down the field. They could have easily put up 40 on Florida if they wanted to, and they just didn't. And I'm not sure why. Honestly, go watch that game, and because I think you can go find that game online. I'm sure they're on YouTube. Go find that game, rewatch that game, and then you say, yeah, okay, that was the real score of that game. And it wasn't just 40-0, and Mario Cristobal just didn't let them not score 40 points. It's so many times they went for a field goal when they couldn't have, or they just called really bad plays for some reason. I don't think this is a get-right spot for Texas. I just think Steve Sarkisian is going to do something. He's going to be like, oh, cool, we're going to take advantage of this, and we're going to beat up an SEC team, and we're going to feel great about it. I just don't think Florida has anything. I think at some point, Florida's defense has been keeping them in the games. They kept them in the Miami game. They kept them in the LSU game. But their offense has massively let them down. Outside of one drive in that Miami game, that offense did nothing. Literally nothing. I think it got 2 first downs. At a certain point, the defense is just going to say, enough of this. Why are we sacrificing our bodies for literally nothing? It's literally nothing. Like this isn't even Iowa levels of offense. This is just like even below Iowa levels of offense. And actually, you have the rankings. You can probably tell me. That not negative 11.9. That's got to be Iowa 2022 level. It's got to be, right?
It's in the
It's got to
neighborhood.
be close. It's that
Um,
bad. Like this isn't even Iowa
yeah,
run the ball 3 times. It's like DJ Lagway misses a complete wide open receiver by 5 yards. That's how bad this is. And yeah, it's like at a certain point, the defense is going to give. They're going to get absolutely blown out. And I feel like Texas wants to win. I feel like they think now that with material, they're just going to walk all over Red River. I don't think that's true. I think they think it's true. And I think they're going to say, oh, we get we get a nice feel good win here. We could say, oh, Archie Manning's great. And they can walk all over Florida. I think Billy Napier's team just gives up on him and they lose by 30 or something and he's gone next week. That's what I think. That's my call on this game. But yeah, even if that's not true, the 8.5 is fine. There's no problem with the 8.5 or 7 now.
yeah. I made a note here. October 1st, Robert says the Florida defense is going to go on strike. Okay. So, Doc, I think the Florida defense is probably getting way too much credit for that game against LSU, which is aging poorly in terms of what the LSU offense is. And I would also say that Miami offense does not look, by my numbers, as well as maybe others think as well. So if this Florida defense is not as good as maybe some people think, this touchdown a gift that Robert and I see it as?
I don't know. Again, Florida really needed some time to get healthy. They're going to get a receiver back. They're going to get an offensive lineman back. So there is help on the way for the Gators. And Texas's offense has looked broken all season. They've looked terrible against San Jose State and UTEP. They did nothing against Ohio State on the road. And now you're going on the road in league play for the first time. I don't think Texas's offense is fixed because they defeated Sam Houston State 55 to nothing. Sam Houston has one of the worst defenses in FBS. And you got to go to the swamp. And Arch Manning has been so underwhelming all season. They just rolled him out there. The Heisman hype was there. And he's just looked so bad. He's short armed throws. He maybe had a shoulder injury. I don't know that he's fully recovered from that. But he's missing the easy throws, the downfield when the depth of target is higher than 15 or 18 yards. His completion percentage and accuracy goes way down. And I don't know. I don't really see Texas having the propensity to move the ball on this Florida defense, which I've actually been very impressed with. This Florida defense has completely kept them in games against LSU and Miami back to back on the road in two hostile environments where nobody hardly goes to win. Miami could have gone and won when they were bad, but I, I don't know. I don't see it going well for Texas here. They still may win the game, and they might eke out the cover. It could be a determining factor of do they win by 7, do they win by 14. But do they just walk into the swamp and roll all over Florida? I don't see it going that way, not at all. I think this game's close throughout the fourth quarter.
How about this then? The side and total imply a game of 18-25. I think there is a big margin here on what Florida scores. I just look. This is as Robert said. This is like Iowa 2022 ineptitude on offense for Florida. This is what I have as the best defense in Texas. I'm building up to maybe the play here is a below on the Florida team total here.
Very possible. Yeah, that could be something. I think both team totals could go under. This last week on the look ahead, this total was 50.5, and it's been one way action on the under. And I don't know that Texas is getting to 25. I just don't think that they have the explosivity. I think Florida can stop the run. And when you stop the run and you can't just hand it off to the bell cow running back, and now you're going to be reliant on Arch Manning to throw their way out a third and medium or worse, maybe that doesn't go as well on the road. It hasn't gone well at home, and maybe it doesn't go well on the road either. So I think this game is 17-6, 21-14 type of score, 21-17. I think this is low scoring all the way on both sides. So I think it's under all the way.
I will jump in here
Yeah.
quickly. The Florida team total on FanDuel is 16.5.
See, that doesn't line up. That's 16, 23. Yeah, it doesn't line up with the total. Has the total come down to 40?
On FanDuel, it is 41.5.
Okay, it's in the neighborhood then.
And Texas, this is 24.5. But like
Yeah,
the under 16.5 seems pretty cool. That seems like a nice play. That's like under 2 touchdowns. You get like a 2 touchdown and you still have to go over that. Yeah.
yep. Yeah, Florida doesn't strike me as a team that's going to score more than one touchdown. Maybe a few field goals, but I think one touchdown is it, unless there's like a special teams or a pick six kind of thing
Yeah,
going on.
this total has crept down to 41.5, and the line is 6.5.
Oh my gosh.
The Vegas implied is about 24.5 to 17 or so.
So one level deeper then, just reading tea leaves here, if you will. Does that movement tell us that basically the market just thinks it's not going to happen this year for Arch Manning at all? Not this game, but this season?
Yeah, I think so. I think I the hype was there, and there was so much pomp and circumstance surrounding him, and it's just been so disappointing from the start. We haven't seen anything to draw from that thinks like he's completely the guy who's going to do everything that this offense needs. I just don't think we've seen anything that's going to show that's what it's going to be. And that's why his Heisman odds have dropped to 50 to 1. He was the preseason
Oh my
favorite,
gosh.
and they played 4 games and he's 50 to 1.
Jeez.
And looking forward for Texas, this is a team that could lose
You're going where I was about to ask.
3 or 4 more games. Like
Yeah.
Texas to miss the playoff is something I would
Yep.
look at here.
I was about to ask you about that. It just their defense can be good enough to maybe drag them into the playoffs, but it's gonna take a lot, I think.
I don't see this as the loss. I see Oklahoma as the loss, and then I see Texas A&M as the loss, and then you're at 3 losses and you're done. But they also have Georgia too, so there's multiple paths here.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Did you get a price on that? Were you looking up, Duck?
Miss the playoff is plus 132. And I'll tell you
Wow.
right now, they got to go to Mississippi State. They got to
Nope,
go to
that's-
Georgia. They got to get Pavia'd. This is not going to be good for Texas. I'm telling you right now. This team is not what we all thought, or what a lot of people thought that they were going to be. They were the preseason
Yeah.
favorite to win the SEC. And my premonition is that they go 8-4.
Yep. As someone who's slowly converting people to the Church of Mississippi State here, I think that a lot of people don't understand. Where is that game? Is that in Starksville or Starkville, singular? Or is
Yep, they play Red River, and then they go to Kentucky, and they go to Mississippi State after that with no break.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Okay. File that one away, kids. I'm sure that'll if that's not on the preview, that'll definitely be an Island Time game. That's definitely one to talk about. All right, last game here. Texas Tech at Houston. I've got a very specific angle here. I've got an elite defense in Lubbock, and downstate I have a very good defense with Houston. Interesting. I thought that Houston was going to take a step back. Interestingly enough, with their defensive coordinator moving to Texas Tech, but there's still remnants. Probably a good topic for me to look into in the offseason. It's not I want to week in and week out bet on Texas Tech to go under here. I think this is a great spot, especially with a kind of a challenged, I guess we'd say, offense at times at Houston and an elite Texas Tech defense. And I've got a good enough Houston defense here to reasonably slow down Texas Tech. Total is 51. I'm projecting a total of 34. Robert's total is right on the number here. And interestingly, this kind of lines up with my narrative here. We both have Houston with 14 points. He's got Texas Tech with about double the points that I have. I mentioned this in the preview of the main pod here that we would talk about this, but that was noted as a total to play the under here. So I'm going to play it. I guess my first question to you, Robert, is you've got the model going slightly over here. You in line with your model here?
It's weird. I think I do have a slight over here. My model does like Texas Tech. It's weird. When I was running this model, I wanted it to say Houston. I really wanted to bet on Houston here, but it wanted Texas Tech. I think Texas Tech might be a bit overhyped. They seem to be able to crush Utah, but apparently Devin Dampier was injured, and Utah were very obliging in that game as well. I also think that who's going to be starting quarterback for Texas Tech? Is it
Baron Morton.
Morton? Okay.
he
See,
back?
I probably have the guy who came.
That Hammond guy?
Yeah, because my model would pick up the one who had the most passes in the last game, and that was the backup. And then if that's the only data set I have for him, and he looked amazing, that's why I probably have them so strong on offense. So that's probably part of the issue there. Yeah, Morton also did not look good at all early in that game either. Now, did he have a concussion or what happened? Do we even know?
I don't remember how he
Yeah,
got
he was
injured.
concussed and brought out that, and he was cleared this week to play.
Okay, that's not the greatest of signs though, because there was a couple of really bad throws, but if he has concussion, right? So I don't know. A part of me really wants to play Houston here. Maybe I'll try to rerun the model and see what it says with Morton as the quarterback for Texas Tech.
Hmm.
But yeah, you know what? If and I'll see what the number says, and maybe that becomes an underplay there too. But yeah, I really want to play Houston here, and I might see if I can find a way to. I feel like Houston is the right play on this one.
Okay. Are you feeling the under here as well, Duck?
I think I'm trying to look something up here quick.
I will say too, it requires a leap of faith too. And I'll maybe frame it another way. And if this is insulting to you, my apologies. It seems like it's easy to look at what Texas Tech did at Utah and look at the total of 51 and say, "Oh, this is going over," just because you've got like the most recent awesome shiny point or shiny object data point here to say that they're going to run away with it. I think Houston's defense is getting overlooked here.
Yeah, and so what I'm looking at is Texas Tech on the road. You're still going to have to work out the kinks with Baron Morton, whether he plays or not. I think he's going to play, but still coming back from an injury of that nature is going to be tricky. We think about Texas Tech as this high-flying air raid pass offense, but they're very balanced. They run the ball just as much as they pass it. And Houston has elite run defense, allowing just less than 3.5 yards per carry on the ground. They don't give up explosivity. They don't give up the big plays. And
Mm-hmm.
so if you're not going to be able to run the ball as effectively, which, by the way, Texas Tech's offense is best when they can gash you on the ground for 8 yards
Yep.
and constantly do that and then throw it over the top. They're not going to be able to do that against Houston. So then when you go look at Houston and their secondary, absolutely elite. First in the nation in defensive explosiveness surrendered, fifth in pass EPA per play surrendered, fourth in pass, or excuse me, second in pass play explosiveness given up, and they are the second best coverage grades per PFF, which is an advanced stats website. They're the second best coverage unit in America, is Houston. And they're at home, and you catch this team that went out to the West Coast and they were dead in the
Mm-hmm.
water against Oregon State, rallied the troops late, they get out of jail free, they come home, they can ride that momentum wave here. Not only have I played Houston, I played 12 and a half, not really a big difference from this line here, but it's probably around that 11 and a half, 12 and a half now. I played Houston against the number. I took Houston on the money line. I think Houston's very live
Wow.
here to win this game on the field.
And not to twist your arm and say, "Hey, agree with me or else," but I would just think the way you've described how they would win that game, it's in line with an underplay here too. So yeah,
Very much 17-16, 21-17 type of score. It's going to be low scoring grinder. They don't want to get in a shootout. They want to possess the football. They want to run the football and get that Willie Fritz offense humming on the ground, which will be difficult in this game. Texas Tech has elite run stopping unit. But if
yep.
they can start to move the ball, get some momentum, give Wegman some easy throws, they can move the sticks. For all the greatness about Texas Tech, defense gave up a little bit. They did really well on the road against Utah last week. It came out that, or 2 weeks ago, it came out that Dampier was hurt, and maybe there's some truth to that, maybe not. He looked really good against West Virginia, so I don't know. But this is just a completely different animal, and you look at Houston and what they've been able to do over the totality of their season against every team that they've played. They can put you in the meat grinder, and they will not let you out. And when they get the ball, and they won't let go of it, and then you try to line up against that defense, which is elite in all levels. Whew, man. And then you look at the havoc. You look at the tackles for loss that Houston is good at securing, and you look at the pass rush numbers. Like, they're going to be coming after that guy. And if you can't run the ball and you have to throw out a third and medium and do it on the road, it could just look a little tricky for Texas Tech. Yeah, I like Houston here plus the points.
Yeah, good point on the scheme of Texas Tech too. It's that, as we talked about, Mac Leftwich, the former Texas State OC, and people thought that was an aired out thing, but it's, to your point, they spread you out and run, and then they get you like in bad spots, and then they go deep, and that doesn't kind of line up with what this Houston offense or defense gives you. Also, in a week when people say this isn't the best week for watching games, this could be the sneaky, like, really fun to watch game. I think this is going to be 4 quarters worth.
This isn't saying much, but it'll absolutely be on one of the 12 TVs.
Oh, one of the 12. Okay. So it's not on ESPN Plus then, or the Vietnamese YouTuber.
Yeah.
There's like multiple Vietnamese YouTubers. It's weird. It's
Oh.
so this. We'll tell the story next. It's Island Time. So basically, for some of the stuff in Canada, there's like literally no way I can actually watch any of some of this stuff, right? So some people on YouTube are like actually just straight up streaming some of these games. And one of them is a YouTube. Early on in the season, it was a YouTuber who has a YouTube channel where he just draws stuff. It's someone from Vietnam, speaks completely Vietnamese, and he just shows how to draw like random pictures, like here's like a fish and a cat. And if you look at the video selection, he just randomly will live stream college football games. And then when you look at the video section, it's the video how to draw a fish, and then Good Morning Football clip where they're talking about like Lamar Jackson or something. It's like insane. It's just like what? And now there's other ones too. It's a bunch of random YouTube channels to the point where I'm trying to figure out if like people are hacking into those YouTube channels and illegally streaming on them, or if those YouTube channels are just basically a setup, like there's basically a fake channel with like fake content on it to set up as a streamer. So I have no idea. It's very confusing, but it's fascinating.
Could he maybe show Paul Gunther how to draw up a defense for UNLV if he can draw a tree?
Maybe.
Just an idea. I think that's needed as well. I appreciate the color on that. All right. A few quacks here.
And then I got a few.
Oh, okay. So wearing my shirt.
First.
This is faded to show that I'm not a Johnny come lately. Is Old Dominion's emergence on offense, is this thing for real? We knew that the quarterback could run, but they jumped into both of mine and Robert's top 20 this week, and it's pretty. They have a good defense, but it's the offense that's really getting them ranked that high. Does this seem reasonable, realistic, sustainable?
Yeah, very explosive, very good at just stacking together successful plays. Colton Joseph has an extreme command of this offensive attack. Ronnie is a very good coach. Old Dominion is a play-on team for me the rest of the season. I have James Madison futures, so I hope they do not defeat James Madison on the road because I'd like James Madison to win the league. But that real close competitive game against Indiana was no fluke. Old Dominion is a very sound football team. Situationally, they're very good. They've been good in the red zone up until last week. You look at the game against Liberty last week, they won the game 21-7. You think they sleptwalked through it, it was sluggish. No. They were 0 for 5 in the red zone and had 4 red zone turnovers, which is a chink in the armor, but they could have won that game by 35. I think they will win this week by 35. Old Dominion's my play of the week, minus 20. I have it at a different number, but I'd lay 20 right now, absolutely, with Old Dominion. I played it at 16.5, but I might go back for more because I think this team is going to destroy Coastal Carolina, and they're on revenge from a loss last season.
Yeah, that was one of our dual model plays. All right, appreciate that. I'll give you my take here, and then I'll let you. Actually, I want Robert's take on this too, although we touched on it a bit. I think Virginia is actually pretty good this year, and they've got a favorable schedule. They've beaten the toughest team on their schedule. I think Florida State's loss on last Friday actually ages okay. Not that people are overreacting. I think by the third set of committee rankings, I think people are going to look back and look like, oh, that Virginia loss wasn't really a big deal. It went double overtime and it was on the road, and Virginia's like at that point trending towards like 8-4. You kind of see that playing out the same way.
Oh yeah, they'll be better than 8-4. Really, the tricky ones here are at Duke and at California, and those will be the two tough spots for Virginia.
That says it all. If those are your tricky spots, then you're.
And this week, they're plus 7.5 this week. I don't think that we're getting enough respect yet for Virginia. I took Virginia plus 7.5 this week. Louisville is a mirage. They were very fortunate to defeat James Madison. James Madison controlled the first 2.5 quarters. There was a fumble return for a touchdown. There was an interception that set up Louisville. And Louisville was dead in the water last week, 17-0. They were down against Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's quarterback play was inexplicably bad in the second quarter, and they just completely set Louisville up for a couple touchdowns. Pittsburgh had a chance to slam the door in the fourth quarter, 1st and goal on the 1-yard line. They throw a pass. The quarterback just lobbed the pass out there to the running back. It was intercepted by the linebacker. It was just bizarre football from Pittsburgh. Typical quintessential Pat Narduzzi football.
Thank you.
And Louisville deserved to lose that game. In my opinion, they deserved to lose against James Madison. And I think Louisville will lose this week against Virginia at home.
Interesting. Okay. Robert, are you thinking that also by the time that we're like in mid-November, this loss is not like a yeah, but it's just like a okay, yeah, you lost to a pretty good team for Florida State.
It depends. Like in this universe, does Florida State beat Miami or no? Like
Yeah,
that's the thing, right? If Florida State loses to Miami, then I think it's a very different conversation if they're competitive with Miami. So again, it's going to really depend on this, but I think we're very close to maybe a couple weeks away from the basically the ACC getting one bid and that's it. It's going to be like either
jeez.
one bid into Miami, or if some sort of weird upset happens and like Miami loses to the other ACC team, then like a one loss Miami could get the second bid. But I feel like that's the scenario we're rapidly heading to with the ACC.
Yeah, that's where you're wrong because we know that Mario doesn't lose weird games.
Yeah, no,
so
it never does
that's
that.
where it falls apart. Okay, yeah. Okay, last one here. All three of us in Slash have North Texas to win the American. Duck, about a week and a half ago, you tweeted out like a little synopsis of your season win totals. And I noticed that you, like me, you did not have North Texas season win total over. Curious if our processes are the same. My thought was, okay, my hypothesis here is they're basically transplanting the whole Sam Houston defense. If it works, the best capitalization is a nice price, which you got at 22, which I got, I think, at 12, rather than just like a minus 110 for a season win total. Is that why you landed where you landed on that?
I guess it's twofold. I didn't expect the defensive turnaround to be this drastic and this quick and this prominent. Their defense is very legitimate for their conference, and
Yep.
I would put their defense up against anybody else's in the American. So I wasn't necessarily ready to write it up to that. But we've also seen Army be worse. We've seen South Alabama be significantly worse. And the work's not done. They've got to beat Navy. They're going to have to beat UTSA. Um, the work's not done, but the true reason for me is I just don't bet regular season win overs. There's too much that has to stay intact and go right in order for a team to exceed their win total. 95% of my win totals are on regular season win unders. And generally, if I'm going to bet an over, I'm going to bet a regular season win total that's low on a team that I think is capable of making a bowl game. I have three regular season win totals. I'm likely to go 2 and 3. I have Southern Miss over 4.5. I have San Diego State over 4.5. And I'm ashamed to say, but I have Middle Tennessee State over 4.5 as well.
Oh,
And I thought we were going to
that's a rough
see
one.
some. It is. There's a lot of shots on goal left to be played in that conference, which is full of bad teams. But Middle Tennessee needed to have defeated Marshall or Kennesaw. They defeated neither. If they were 2 and 3, I'd feel comfortable. At 1 and 4, I really don't. But I generally bet regular season win overs if the team's total is low enough, and I think that they'll at least get to a bowl game. So 95% of my regular season wins are on under.
Your theory, I agree totally, and I need to practice it a little more too because I've learned experientially that as much as you're betting on everything else, you're implicitly, almost explicitly betting on injury luck as well.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Maybe I need an adult to finally explain it to me, what I've seen, and now understand it. Agree. Appreciate the insight there. Yeah, the lowest hanging fruit is on the overs is on those teams like a Southern Miss. You forgot to mention defending Sun Belt champs, Southern Miss, right?
Yes, that's personnel wise. Yes,
Yeah. All right. What do you got?
we got to talk. We got to talk a little action.
Yeah.
Okay.
We got to talk a little action. So, Central Michigan, Akron.
Oh my gosh.
Okay.
I know you like Central Michigan, like just overall this year. I don't know about this spot. Akron is just, they're in a bad spot this year, man. They're even worse than I imagined. I think it's their bowl ineligibility that's really that's really done them in. He said sarcastically. I know that you liked Drink All coming in. The Drink Alls are expecting a child. It's been announced. I don't have a play on this. I think that I don't know. Akron's treading water at best, and I think Central Michigan's trending in the right way. That's like my thumbnail
So the
sketch.
spread is 7.5. My model's got Central Michigan minus 21.9, 22. So I would have a play on Central Michigan there.
Central Michigan opened 3.5, so I played it there. But besides that, there's a real formula to lock down Akron's offense. Akron's offense received a boost when they played UAB and Duquesne, but outside of that, they've scored 0, 0, and 3 points and were completely shut down against Toledo. And Central Michigan, they're going to really truncate the game down. This game could play to 9 total possessions. They're going to run the ball. They use the entire play clock. They're just going to put you in this box that you can't get out of. And so I don't think we'll have enough possessions for Akron to really do much damage. But outside of that, they can't throw the ball. They don't run the ball well. The red zone offense is atrocious. They've converted 17 out of 71 third down attempts on the season. Very bad situational football team. So I played Akron's team total under 17.5. I just don't see a path to them having any success against any team other than 11 folding chairs out there.
Can Akron actually fire their coach or no?
I don't think they would. Who else are you going to get for the job? He's really the best candidate for the job. He just sounds so defeated when he talks about his personnel and being overmatched. It's a tough place to win.
Yeah.
Yeah, my model actually has Akron by 13 here.
Oh.
So, man, yeah, Akron doesn't do anything.
Your model has Akron by 13?
Oh, you mean
Central, sorry.
Oh, so it's a point off on your model from a dual model play.
Yeah.
You're top of the party.
Close. Yeah, that's my job.
So the next one, Eastern Michigan at Buffalo.
You are picking the primetime games here, my guy. Robert, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I got this. Let me call up the spread here. The spread is Eastern Michigan plus 10.5. I have this basically a pick. My model is pretty out on Buffalo, and I can't disagree with my model on that.
I've made the case for Noah Kim. I've just got such strong crosswinds here. Let me pull up a different thing here. I want to pull up my conference report for the MAC. Like I said, I've made the case for Noah Kim, and if I'm looking in the MAC, Eastern actually has the second highest rated offense in the whole MAC by my metrics. Eastern also has by far the worst defense in the MAC. So you've got these two forces at each other. Sounds like a very MAC version of my Trojans. How about that? It just, I gutted out. It was the typical giving birth to a giraffe win when I took Eastern over Louisiana. Thank you very much. That's about enough for me. I don't want to go through that ever again. I'm thinking that I'm guessing that your play is on Buffalo here?
My hope is that Buffalo wins because I've got a Buffalo MAC future, and I think that they can really run the table in the MAC. They're getting their quarterback Taquan Roberson back from injury. I took under 55. You look at Buffalo, very slow pace. They're going to grind you down on the ground. They're going to run the football. And Eastern Michigan will oblige with that. They have a terrible run defense, very bad. So then you factor in Buffalo's defense, which is elite by MAC standards. And we just saw the formula to shut down Eastern Michigan and their offensive attack. Central Michigan did that really well last week. And now you're on back-to-back road trips. Just a spot, I think, where Buffalo absolutely has to save their season. I like good teams that are in desperation mode. This team still has everything out in front of them to go out and win the conference. So I like Buffalo to win the game, but I think that this is going to be a slow-burning grind. I don't think Eastern Michigan's offense is going to be as successful in this environment on the road against an elite MAC defense. And I think Buffalo will grind it out on the ground. So I took under 55.
Wow. The thing that would scare me about that is Eastern's, I'm looking like globally now here. Eastern I have as the third worst defense in all of FBS. I would almost be concerned, does Buffalo have to grind this one out? That would be my concern if I'm going under here.
I think Buffalo probably feels a little ticked off about how the last couple of games have gone, specifically that Troy game where they were up 17-0 with 10 minutes to go and blew it. They also had a real scare thrown into them by Kent State. So, yeah, I think it's a business meeting that they hold. I think it's you run the ball, you get up by 2 touchdowns, you get this game over with as soon as possible, then you go on to UMass.
Very fair. Very fair. All right. You got more action for us? Or
Probably
outside
enough.
of the Mac?
Yeah, I got one more that I'd be interested to hear.
Please.
Army at UAB.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, let me see. What's the UAB spread here? Yeah, UAB plus 7.5. I actually have UAB -6. I have UAB favored.
Jeez. My model has Army by 4 here. UAB is another one of those teams that kind of just mocks my model. Like I don't know. This is not really a controversial statement. Dilfer almost feels like the Narduzzi of the American in that just he can just find a way to not find a way. It seems like that's his superpower, if you will. I don't see a big margin here. Just I can't imagine. If I look up just to make sure. The worst unit on the field here by far is the UAB defense, and I can't imagine they're going to have the discipline required to face a team like Army. So if Robert gave me $100, I'd go with Army here.
You think the same thing, Robert?
No, I'm on UAB.
I think, golly, you look at UAB, and they went to Navy and competed very well. They scored 24 points in the first half against a much, much better Navy team than what Army is. And Army, I just feel like they are lacking so much offensive punch. They're not nearly the same team we saw last year. They're far too reliant on the fullback dive, and also they run a quarterback follow off of that. And half their run plays have been executed by the quarterback carrying the ball. But their quarterbacks are averaging 3.4 yards per carry on the ground, and they just don't have that real punch offensively that we're used to seeing. They completely shut down by ECU last week. And it seems every year when Army goes to the Southeast, they throw up complete stinkers. We've seen them lose to Louisiana Monroe, lose to Troy. They lost against ECU last week. And it just feels, man, is this one that UAB can get? I think that Army secondary is really bad. Worst in the conference, actually. And I wonder if they can get past on here. I think UAB can throw it around a little.
I can see that. The thing that really, and this is a tough one. I was thinking about this when a lot of my best thoughts come to me when I was walking the dogs recently. You see the one behind me with her ear sticking up. I've got UAB as the ranked 12th out of 14 teams in the American in terms of rush defense.
Probably
now,
true, yeah.
Now, that I don't know how that translates to when you're facing an option team, because usually that's just people just run over you. And option teams don't run over you as much as like run around you and get you in weird spots. So maybe they're not as vulnerable that way. The thing is, though, I've yet to see UAB's defense ever do anything to really impress me. And this is such a coaching mismatch, too. Credit to Trent Dilfer for his distinguished high school career. He just hasn't translated it to the American. And I like Mr. Munkin. I forget which one he is. I think it's Jeff. That's an Army. I think that's a coaching mismatch too. I totally get your case, but that coaching mismatch is such a trump card. I do the angle that you present to about the Army on the road. This being relatively new still to the American, they're playing a lot of venues that are just outside. What is it? The I-95 corridor, I guess I would say that it's home for them.
Yeah, strange environments that they are not used to being in.
Yeah.
All right, one more.
Yes.
Michigan State at Nebraska.
Ooh. That's an interesting one. Let me pull this up here, my matchup thing here.
I've got my model has Michigan State 31, Nebraska 29.
So I'm trying to pull up. Is that earlier in the day or is that an evening game? It's at Nebraska, right?
Yeah, 4 p.m. Eastern.
Okay. Oh, there it is. Okay. So my model has Nebraska by 10, interestingly. You know what's also interesting? It likes their... Boy, this doesn't align with my eyeballs here. This shows Nebraska's defense as the best unit on the field. Now, maybe I'm reading too much into the Michigan game more, Maybe the Michigan game isn't that bad, as I have them as actually a really good offense in my numbers. I like Michigan State's offense. I think they actually have a serious passing game, and they have a quarterback that can run. That, as I'm just talking through this, that seems like a lot of points to give to a functional offense here. It's very different from the Michigan team that they hosted. Man, this is a tough one here. My model's got this literally just on the number here, on the market, on the side and the total here. And I'm having a hard time talking myself off of that, but if Robert gave me $100, I'd probably go with Sparty here.
I think that's probably a wise play. I'm going to send you guys something here that I think you'll find interesting.
Let's see.
Something worth watching anyway.
What? Oh, wait, is it? Where'd you do
I
that?
texted you.
Oh, okay. Let's see.
Oh, the weather report for, I'm assuming, Nebraska.
Yeah,
Look at
nothing more reliable than upper Midwest wind forecast the first week of October. 33-mile-an-hour gusts.
Wow.
Jeez.
So Michigan State's secondary, which is poor, will not be exploited. And both of these teams have got to go into this game plan as we're going to run the ball, control the clock. Place kicking is going to be hard. I think Michigan State can compete here. This is an under. This is a windy under.
Michigan State, I think I don't know. I saw a up close game with them when they played USC. They had quite a fun time throwing the ball against us. I don't know if they really enjoy running the ball. That kind of seems like their second favorite thing to do. So, yeah, that feels grindy to me. I think the under's probably the play there.
Yeah. And that total's going to drop even further.
Yeah, so, yeah, get it while you can then, right?
Get it while you can.
Yep.
Which is why everybody listening at home to Island Time needs to continue to listen to Island Time so they get valuable nuggets like that.
Yeah.
Exactly.
From the sharpest guys around.
Yeah.
That's the sharpest college football podcast, as we say. Yeah. All right. Good stuff. Yeah, I appreciate you bringing that, Duck. I like being on the spot like that. It's a little different dynamic for me. I enjoy it. Oh, what did I do here? I blew it just as I was going to go to the next thing. So, come on. Sorry. Here we go. So, with that, thank everybody for listening, watching. We appreciate it. The number of people that actually listen to us astounds me. That's very flattering. We appreciate you. So please come back, as Duck said, every week. Good luck this weekend. And as always, feel free to reach out to any of us on Twitter or whatever. So in the meantime, have a good luck this week, and we'll talk to you guys next week.